into a little low back release sequence. Hopefully this little lesson plan will help you to release tension in the lower back, maybe from sitting too long at your desk, maybe from doing lots of gardening, or maybe just standing still for a long period of time. Anything where you've been really static and the lower back starts to seize up, hopefully this will help give you a little bit of release. So what I want you to do is to start off lying on your back into relaxation position. Just gently bring yourself down onto the floor. Make sure that you have nice support for the head. Make sure you have room behind you to bring your arms back overhead. I'm just going to come down a little lower. And I want you to feel, first of all, that there's a little bit of space between your feet and a little bit of space between the knees. The pelvis is in a neutral position, so you're encouraging the hips and the pubic bone to be level with one another. Therefore, you should have a natural curve for the lower back, rather than deliberately pushing the back into the mat. And the curve behind the neck should be in place. Just watch that your head cushion isn't right under the shoulders. It should only be under the heaviest part of your head. We can keep the arms just lengthening to your sides, encouraging the chest to be open. And let's start off with some pelvic tilts, north to south. So imagine that your belly button is the north of your compass, and the pubic bone is the south of the compass. We start off by tilting the pelvis towards your face, so pressing your lower back into the mat. The pubic bone lifts up towards the ceiling. And then we send the pelvis away from the face and feel the lower back arching away from the floor. So we breathe out as we tilt to the north, and breathe in as you roll to the south. Now, if your lower back is feeling really tender, you may not want to go south. You may want to just go to north and return to neutral. You're keeping the feet nice and connected into the mat. The legs are a little bit active as you use some of the leg muscles to push your lower back into the floor. And the tummy muscles engage as you tilt to the north, and then the muscles relax and lengthen as you roll to the south. Let's just do a couple more in each direction. Then let's start to increase the range a little bit. So the next time you tilt your pelvis to the north, squeeze your bottom and hover just your bum off the mat. Try to keep most of your back on the floor. Then lower your bottom to the mat, release your spine to neutral. Breathe out, tilt to the north, lift your bum. Breathe and lower the bum and release to neutral. And let's do just two more like that. Breathing out as you come up. Breathing in as you release down. Then let's take this into the full spine curl. Now, if you have osteoporosis, you're going to keep your back straight and just hinge your hips up to the ceiling and then release your spine back to the floor. If you're able to come into a spine curl, you tilt your pelvis to the north, you squeeze and lift your bum, and then bone by bone you peel the spine away from the mat. Hips opening to the ceiling, lovely strength into the glutes, and then bone by bone you soften the chest, the lower back, and the pelvis back to neutral. So we breathe out as we go to the north, squeeze and lift the bum, bone by bone, peel the spine away from the mat. Breathe in at the top and breathe out as you release back down. Now you could keep going as you are going, or you can add in the arms. So the next time you've lifted your bottom, stay up there with your spine and lift your arms up and float them back towards the ears. Then soften down through the chest, the mid-back and the lower back. Then bring your arms back to your sides. Breathe out as you tilt to the north, lift your bottom, lift your spine. Breathe in, the arms come up and they reach back. Breathe out, roll back down again, bone by bone. This is just giving us even more length into the spine. We'll do one more set with the arms if you have added them in. And when you've finished, let the arms release to your sides and stay there. Now I want you to keep the legs as they are, and we're going to come into a little hip hiking exercise. exercise. So what this involves is keeping the pelvis level, so you're still in a neutral pelvis position, but you're going to shorten one waist whilst lengthening the other one. So for example, my right waist will shorten and my left waist will lengthen. So you'll notice I get more creases in the side of the body. Then I'm going to swivel around and shorten the left waist as I lengthen the right waist. All those wrinkles go away down the side of the right. Then you come back to the right, contracting, shortening that side, and then you shorten the left side. So you're still keeping the pelvis nice and level. We're not moving north to south or east to west. We're just literally side flexing into the lower back. So this is quite nice for lengthening tight waist muscles. We'll just do one more to each side. Finishing with that left waist shortening. And then come back with lovely even waists down either side. Then let's come into our east and west compass tilts. So now your right hip is going to rise up towards the ceiling as the left hip sinks down towards the mat. And then the left hip rises as the right hip sinks. And we're just gently tilting or tipping the pelvis from side to side. Feeling one side of the bottom get lighter as the other side gets heavier. The feet are helping, the legs are working a little bit. The upper body stays nice and still. Make that your last one to each side. And now bring your feet together, your knees together. Let's open the arms out to the sides, the palms turned up to the ceiling. Try to keep the arms lower than your shoulders for this sequence. We'll gently tip the pelvis over to the right, coming into hip roll exercise. Your head will turn to the left. Take a breath in there and breathe out as you come back to the center. Breathe in the middle, breathe out, roll the legs and pelvis to the left. Your head will gently turn to the right. Breathe in there and breathe out to come back to the center. So we're getting really lovely rotation in the spine now, from the mid-back down to the lower back, as the pelvis gently tips from side to side. And we'll do one last one to each side, hopefully feeling even more length down the sides of the body than you did with that hip hiking exercise. Once you come back to the center, if you'd like to, you can bring your legs up one at a time and give your knees a little hug to the chest and just gently rock through the lower back, stretching, releasing those joints and muscles. You're almost lifting the bum off the floor each time as you hug the knees to the chest. You could continue to just rock backwards and forwards, or you could open your knees a little wider apart and then rock from side to side. Again, massaging the lower back and the sides of the body onto the floor. Keep the feet relatively close together, but keep your knees nice and wide. The elbows will just rest onto the floor as you rock to that side. And when you finish that last one to each side, bring your feet back to the floor one at a time. And we're going to change position now. You could just stop there and hopefully already your lower back will feel better. If not, let's continue working in a 4-point kneeling position. So gently transition onto your side, push yourself up, and let's bring your knees underneath your hips and your hands underneath your shoulders. So finding a really nice 4-point kneeling position. If your knees are a bit uncomfortable in this position, please feel free to pop a little cushion under each of the knees so that they have a bit more padding to work with. We want to start off with a lovely neutral spine. So like you were when you're on your back, you want the pelvis to be in a neutral position. So we're not in a tilted north position like so, or a tilted south position like so. We're wanting to find that midway point between the two extremes. The hands are right under your shoulders. Spread your fingers wide apart and encourage that middle finger to line up with the middle of your wrists. You could do this on your knuckles instead if that makes your wrists feel more comfortable. So just listen to your body, do what helps your body to feel better. So let's start off with some little tail tucks, and essentially it's like your north tilts that you did on your back. So keeping your upper body nice and still, I want you to tilt your pelvis towards your face, just curling your lower back, and then release back to neutral. So you breathe out as you tuck the tailbone down towards your heels, breathe in as you release to neutral. I'm going to do 3 more, like so. You'll notice I'm keeping the upper back lovely and still. I'm trying not to curl the whole of the spine. So let's progress this now into our cat. So now we want the whole spine to curl. So let's start off by tucking the tailbone under, then curling the lower back, then the mid back, then the upper back, the neck, and finally the head. And you're looking right down the body towards the pelvis. You're going to stay there as you take a deep breath in. As you breathe out, let your head lift, your bottom stick out, and your spine return to neutral. Take a breath in, breathe out, tuck the tailbone under, curl the lower back, mid back, upper back, neck and head. Take a breath in at the bottom, and breathe out as you release back to neutral. So you want to feel that lovely sequential movement riding up the back from the tailbone all the way to the head. Let's do 2 more of those. Just check that you're not pushing the floor away with your arms and really lifting just through the upper back. Remember, the upper back is already naturally curved. So all we're doing is focusing on the lumbar spine and then just gently evening out that curve into a C shape. So from there, if you need to have a rest of the wrists, do just come back maybe into rest position, stretching the arms out, releasing through the lower back. You could give your wrists a little circle or a shake. If you're happy to stay in 4-point kneeling, do. We're going to come into a little tail swish exercise, a bit like our hip hike that we did on the back. So think of your left waist getting shorter as you lengthen your right waist. Then lengthen your left waist as you shorten your right waist. They call this a tail swish, and I like to think of it as happy dog. So imagine your dog wagging his tail with excitement. It's the same thing, you're just moving much, much slower, much more controlled. You're contracting the muscles in one side of the body as you lengthen the other side, and then you're moving to the other side. Again, the pelvis does stay in a neutral position. The upper back should stay nice and still. Your head, your neck can stay still. Or what you could do is when you shorten the left waist, you look over the left shoulder towards the left hip. Then you shorten the right waist, look over the right shoulder towards the right hip. So you're adding in a little bit more side flexion for the whole of the spine, not just the lower spine. Make that your last one to each side, and then come back and rest again off the wrists should you need to. We're going to take this now into our hip hinge and then into a lovely moving cat. So what I want you to do now is keep your back lovely and straight and hinge backwards. Try to keep that lumbar curve in place and then hinge forwards. So breathe in as you hinge back and breathe out as you hinge forwards. So we're just finding that crease in the front of the hips as we sit back, and then we're releasing forwards again. So let's do 1 more, and then let's add in the moving cat exercise. So start off with a neutral pelvis and spine, then curl your spine into a cat shape, bone by bone by bone. Once you've found your cat, sit halfway back, keep your cat and hinge forwards again. And then you can straighten back out into your neutral spine. So breathe out as you curl into the cat. Breathe in as you hinge halfway back. Breathe out, hinge forwards, and breathe in to release to neutral. And let's just do 1 more of those. You'll feel the lower back muscles really lengthen as you hinge backwards. take this into kitty cat, another variation of a theme. So what I want you to do is come into your cat. Hinge halfway back, but now bend your elbows, lower your head towards the floor. Slide your head forwards and push yourself back up. Breathe out as you curl into your cat. Breathe in, hinge halfway back. Breathe out, lower the elbows and the head. Breathe in, slide forwards, push back up through the chest. Let's do 2 more sets. So we're getting lovely sequential movement through the spine and lovely movement into the hips, the elbows, the shoulders. When you finish there, come back and have a rest should you need to, maybe back into rest position, stretching everything out. Give the wrist a little circle to release any tension. Then let's come into threading the needle, which is a lovely rotational exercise for the spine. So I want you to keep your bum right above your knees. Try not to sit back for this one. We're going to take the back of your right hand onto the mat. Slide it to the left as you bend your left elbow and you turn in your upper body to look towards that hand. Then you slide back to the center. Place the right hand under your shoulder. Twist your spine to the right as you straighten the left arm to the left. To the right. Come back to the center. So we breathe out as we rotate and breathe in as you return. Breathe out to rotate. Breathe in to return. We'll just do one last one to each side. And when you're finished, again, come back to rest. Release tension through the body. A nice big resting stretch. The last sequence I'm going to finish off with is called a rippling cat. Very similar to kitty cat, but we're going to keep the arms nice and straight throughout the movement. So come back into your 4-point kneeling position. Check the weight is even through the hands and the knees. Start off with your cat. So tuck the tailbone under, curl through the lower back, mid-back, upper back, neck and head. Take a deep breath in. As you breathe out, sit halfway back. And now breathe in, straighten your spine, stick your bum out, look to the hands, and then breathe out, hinge yourself forwards. Breathe out, curl into the cat. Breathe in here. Breathe out, go halfway back, draw the tummy in towards your spine. Breathe in, straighten your spine, stick your bum out, let the spine release to neutral. Breathe in to hinge yourself forwards. Breathe out. Breathe in to pause. Breathe out to go back. Breathe in to straighten the spine. Breathe out to come forwards. I'll just do 2 last ones to finish. Hopefully by the end of this, you'll really feel much more loose and free in the lower back. When you finish, bring your feet together, open your knees a little wider apart, sit all the way back if you can, reach your arms out in front. You could rest your head onto onto the mat, or if you prefer, you can bend your elbows, make a little pillow with your hands, and rest your head onto your hands. And just hold this position, just stay here and rest, breathing deep and full and wide into the backs, the sides, the bottom of the rib cage. And then when you're ready, gently roll yourself back up, bone by bone by bone. Restack your spine on top of your hips, and hopefully your lower back feels much more loose and free and ready to take on the rest of the day. Well done, really good work, thank you.